With 11 minutes to go in Atlanta, Lionel Messi's World Cup looked finished. Not shaky, finished. Argentina, the defending champions, trailed Egypt 2-0, a country that had never won a single knockout match in its history. Messi had already blown a penalty. He'd been shoved off the ball, dispossessed, misplacing passes, sending shots flying over the crossbar, looking every bit his 39 years. The greatest player of all time was about to walk off a World Cup field for the final time as a losing man, just one day after Cristiano Ronaldo had suffered the exact same fate. The timing felt almost cruel. Then, in a stretch of just 13 minutes, everything anyone believed about this tournament got flipped upside down. Argentina scored 3 goals, completing the latest comeback from a 2-goal deficit in World Cup history. Messi broke down in tears. Egypt's players dropped to the ground in disbelief. Their coach accused FIFA of protecting Messi and made the anti-racism gesture directly in Messi's face after the final whistle. One of his own staff members had to be pulled back by security after rushing toward the Argentine captain, then got sent off and escorted out. There was a canceled goal, a blocked penalty, a questionable foul, a heated sideline clash, and one of the greatest comebacks the sport has ever witnessed. So let's break down what actually happened, because this wasn't just a football game, it was a battle. And none of it makes sense without knowing where Egypt stood before that night. This is a nation completely in love with football that, before this tournament, had played 7 World Cup matches across 3 appearances and won none of them. 0. They even tried entering the very first World Cup in 1930 and famously missed their ship to Uruguay. Their coach, Hossam Hassan, had said before the tournament started that Egypt needed to prove themselves properly. And they did exactly that, beating New Zealand for their first ever World Cup victory, then eliminating Australia on penalties. Then they walked into the stadium in Atlanta to face the world champions with nothing to lose, and they played exactly like it. Bold, unafraid, throwing themselves into tackles, refusing to be scared off by the jersey or the man wearing the number 10. 15 minutes in, they were already ahead. A corner came in from Marwan Ataya, and Yasser Ibrahim smashed a header straight past Emiliano Martinez before spinning away in shock as Egypt's bench erupted. Argentina, who hadn't trailed at halftime in a World Cup match since Germany humiliated them back in 2010, suddenly looked completely lost. 6 minutes later came a moment that should have turned things around, but instead crushed Messi even further. Hossam Hassan brought down Nicolas Tagliafico inside the box. French referee François Letexier pointed to the spot immediately. This was supposed to be the moment, the legend, the penalty, the redemption story. Instead, Messi's shot was weak, and Egypt's goalkeeper Mostafa Choubert dove to his left and saved it, making Messi the first player in World Cup history to miss 2 penalties in a single tournament. Let that sink in. In a career full of records, that's the one he never wanted. From there, Choubert refused to let anything else get past him. He denied Alexis McAllister from point-blank range. He watched Messi's curling free kick clip the outside of the post. He somehow kept out Julian Alvarez from close range after Tagliafico set him up perfectly, leaving Alvarez stunned. And there's a wonderful backstory here. Choubert's father, Ahmed, was Egypt's goalkeeper at the 1990 World Cup, and his infamous time-wasting against Ireland actually helped bring about the back-pass rule. Now his son was single-handedly keeping the world champions at bay on football's biggest stage. This wasn't luck. This was a family completing a story. Argentina went into halftime behind, shaken and out of answers. Then the second half took this match somewhere nobody expected. Early on, Egypt broke forward. Hassan tore down the left flank. Salah threaded a perfect pass through. And Zizou, a striker literally named after the Brazilian legend, finished it off. 2-0. Egypt were in the quarterfinals. Except then, VAR started rewinding the footage. Again and again, roughly 30 seconds earlier in play, some clocks say 17, Ataya had barely tugged Lisandro Martinez's shirt and clipped his foot. That was it. That was the foul. The goal was wiped off the board. Let's be honest about why Egypt were furious, because they actually have a fair point worth hearing out. This tournament, FIFA's head of officiating, Pierluigi Collina, specifically told referees to let normal physical contact go and keep the game flowing. And it worked. Fouls dropped to 22.6 per match, down from 25 in 2022 and 27 in 2018. So the entire refereeing approach this tournament has been, let it play, don't be soft, don't stop the game for a shirt pull. and then VAR rewinds half a minute of play to cancel out a fantastic goal over a shirt tug and a stepped-on toe. Yes, technically it's reviewable since the challenge happened during the attacking sequence, but is it consistent? Remember Alexander Pavlovic's boot swinging up near Ecuador's Pedro Vide's face? No VAR review there. Leroy Sané's goal stood. If referees are letting that kind of contact go during play, they can't then go hunting for it on a screen afterward. Egypt didn't get a harsh call. They got judged by a completely different set of standards than everyone else had been playing under the entire tournament. And here's what makes it even more painful. None of it mattered anyway, because 8 minutes later, Egypt scored again. Hassan beat Nahuel Molina cleanly, cut the ball back, and Zizou buried it past Martinez. 2-0 for real this time. No review, no second chances. The stadium was stunned. The world champions were staring down elimination. Egypt were 11 minutes away from the biggest result in their football history, their first ever quarterfinal, after waiting nearly 100 years for one. And Messi, who had done nothing all night, was 11 minutes from an ending nobody wanted to see. Then he woke up. And there's a real reason for it, not just magic. Manager Lionel Scaloni brought on Lautaro Martinez for Rodrigo de Paul, which pushed Messi out to the right wing. In the middle, he'd been smothered. 3 Egyptian defenders on him every time he touched the ball. Out wide, he suddenly had room. In the 79th minute, he drifted in a cross from the right, and Christian Romero rose above everyone to head it past Chaubert. 2-1, game back on. Moments later, Messi went on a winding, almost impossible run through defenders, the kind he hasn't managed in years, nearly setting up Lautaro. Then, in the 83rd minute, Egypt failed to clear the ball, and it dropped right to Messi just inside the box. There was only ever going to be one result. A half-volley, perfect technique under enormous pressure. Chaubert got both hands to it but couldn't keep it out. The ball crashed into the roof of the net. 2-2. That goal was Messi's 21st in World Cup history, extending his own record, 8 at this tournament alone. 1 ahead of Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland. In the race for the Golden Boot, he also became the first player ever to score in 6 straight World Cup knockout matches, in the very same game where he became the first man ever to miss 2 penalties in one tournament. That's the most Messi thing imaginable, the worst record in the sport, and one of its greatest achievements in the same 90 minutes. But Argentina weren't done yet. And this is where everything boiled over. 2 minutes into stoppage time, Egypt attacked. Salah went down inside Argentina's box, screaming for a foul, claiming Julian Alvarez had tripped him. The referee stayed silent. No VAR check. Argentina broke forward immediately. Lautaro Martinez swung in a cross and Enzo Fernandez headed it home. The winner, 3-2. And the cruelest twist of all, it was Salah, the other number 10, the man this match had partly revolved around, who lost the ball in the exact move that ended his own country's dream. Egypt were beside themselves. Players collapsed onto the pitch. Their coach insisted afterward that a shirt had been pulled inside that box. Some reports pointed to Salah, others to Hamdi Fathi, and that VAR never even looked at it. The logic behind that non-review is worth understanding because it's the exact opposite of the disallowed goal, and it's what turned Egyptian anger into real fury. Since Salah went down inside the box, VAR wasn't just checking for a foul, it was checking for a penalty, which carries a much higher bar for contact. Not enough contact for a penalty means no review at all and the goal stands. If Salah had been standing just 1 yard outside the box, that same contact would have had to be reviewed for consistency. 1 yard, that's the entire difference between Egypt getting a free kick and a chance to survive, or Egypt getting knocked out on the counterattack. 2 nearly identical fouls 30 minutes apart, and the rules delivered completely opposite outcomes for both. You can justify each call on its own. Try justifying them together. By the final whistle, the match had completely unraveled. Messi walked toward Egypt's bench and exchanged words with Hassam Hassan. Nobody knows exactly what was said. No audio ever surfaced, but Hassan's reaction was stunning. He crossed his arms into an X, FIFA's official anti-racism signal introduced in 2024 to report racist abuse and trigger a formal response, directly in Messi's face. It earned him a yellow card. Then several Egyptian staff members rushed toward the confrontation, and one of them charged at Messi with real intent before Argentine players surrounded their captain and security stepped in to pull everyone apart. That staff member was shown a red card and removed from the pitch. That's the most decorated footballer in the sport's history, being physically rushed by an opposing team's staff member on a World Cup field, seconds after one of the greatest comebacks ever seen. Neither FIFA nor the Egyptian Federation has explained who Hassan's gesture was aimed at or what set it off. Hassan himself never brought it up afterward. What he did do was point directly at the top of the sport. In a heated interview, he said his team had been treated unfairly and had suffered an injustice. Then he went further, saying out loud what plenty of Egyptian fans were already thinking, that maybe some wanted Messi to keep advancing. He claimed Argentina had been supported at every level, questioned the legitimacy of the whole result, and asked a question that will echo in Cairo for years. Why isn't there fairness in sports? Zizou backed him up, saying the unfairness was obvious from the very start of the match. That's a serious accusation to make at a World Cup. FIFA, when asked to respond, said nothing. So let's take this seriously for a moment, because fairness cuts both ways here. And there's a version of this story where Argentina are simply the target of an unfair narrative. Nobody handed them that comeback. There's no conspiracy that makes Cristian Romero win a header, or Enzo Fernandez attack a cross in the 92nd minute with an entire country on his shoulders. The disallowed goal was technically a foul in the build-up. Inconsistent with how the tournament had been officiated, yes, but not fabricated. The Salah incident, under the higher penalty standard, genuinely wasn't a spot kick. And Messi's equalizer was pure skill that no referee gifted him. Roy Keane, who rarely hands out praise, called Argentina fighters who simply wouldn't quit. And he wasn't wrong. Enzo Fernandez summed it up simply. This is a group that never gives up, 4 years removed from Qatar and hungry to do it all again. Scaloni was so overcome with emotion he couldn't even finish his post-match interview. That's not a team being handed a result by officials. That's a team that refused to lose. But here's what makes this match so hard to settle, and why people will be arguing about it for years. Both things are true at the same time. Argentina were genuinely heroic, and Egypt were genuinely let down by an inconsistency that has nothing to do with any conspiracy and everything to do with a VAR system that judges identical contact differently, depending on which side of a line it happens on. Egypt didn't lose because FIFA favored Messi. Egypt lost because they couldn't protect a 2-goal lead for 11 minutes against the world champions, and because the rulebook worked against them twice. Those are two separate injuries, and both of them sting. Underneath everything, this night's real story is about a 39-year-old man who looked finished, publicly embarrassed by a missed penalty, getting knocked around by younger, stronger opponents, who found something within himself anyway. Messi's teammates threw him into the air after the final whistle, thankfully managing not to drop him while he cried. Ronaldo's tears the night before marked the end of his World Cup for good. Messi's kept his alive. Argentina move on to the quarterfinals in Kansas City, chasing something no team has pulled off since back-to-back titles in 1958 and 1962. And Egypt fly home with the best performance in their history, the tournament's greatest goalkeeping display, and a lingering feeling that the system itself worked against them. 11 minutes. That's all that separated the biggest shock of this World Cup from the greatest comeback in its history. Football delivered the comeback. Egypt will spend a long time wondering why it happened the way it did. So where does this land for you? Greatest comeback ever or a robbery? Honestly, I can't decide. Let me know your take below, and stick around for the quarterfinals.